Lars, thank you so much for being here with me today for an interview for Cannareporter. You are right now in charge of the case of Juicy Fields. So my first question would be, how did you get into this case, considering your past as a lawyer? You are based in Sweden, right?
I'm based in Sweden, or I should say that I'm based in Sweden and in England, because I also live in England. So I'm going back and forth between London and Sweden, in a small town called Malmö, just opposite Copenhagen. That's in the south of Sweden. And I came into this for several reasons. First of all, I have specialized in doing investigation and helping victims for international investment frauds. So that's what I've been doing for the past 15 years. So that's one of the reasons why people came to me, because I've been doing this. I think I've been investigating and helping victims for more than 30 different investment scams during the past 15 years. Mm-hmm. I'm also an investor in the cannabis industry. So I've been investing in farming and productions and treatments within the cannabis industry. And I could also say that I'm a cancer survivor. So about 4 years ago, I was diagnosed by cancer in my lymphatic system. And one of the reasons I'm still alive today is actually cannabis treatments. So I'm very well known within the industry, how it works, the treatments, and such things. And also being an investor is important when you're going to do an investment in these kind of scams, because you need to know about the financial side and how the business works and that. And that's one of the reasons why I said, just after 5 minutes, when I looked at the concept and the offering the Juicy Field had, I said to myself, after 5 minutes, this is a scam. And it's a scam from day one, because nothing ends up. Everything that they have been telling the investors, absolutely doesn't fit into reality. There isn't.
What you are saying is that you realized that Juicy Fields was a scam even before everyone knew. How did you? How did you get to that conclusion?
After just a couple of minutes, first of all, I saw exactly what I had been seeing before in these kind of scams. So quite a lot of the different kind of elements, how they are marketing, how they are presenting the investment opportunity. That is more or less a copy paste of what I have been seeing so many times before. So that was the first reason. The second reason was that it just doesn't end up. The business doesn't look like how they had presented the opportunity. You don't have these kind of profit margin. The business doesn't look like this. And there is a mathematic as well, because if you add up all the investors and then calculate how many plants do they need to buy for all this money that has been invested, then Juicy Field has to buy more than 3 times the annual production in the world. So nothing was any logic to it. So there was several reasons why I said to myself and my associates that this is a scam. From day one.
So, and then what did you do about it? Because I assume that it was not your role to warn everyone that it was a scam.
No. Well, I'm a lawyer, so I'm helping victims for these kind of investment scams. And to begin with, I had a contact with a gentleman in Sweden who has lost quite a lot of money. So it was quite a lot of money. He has lost more than 200,000 euros. And he asked me to look into this. And that's when I said, after just a couple of minutes, that this is a scam. I'm sorry that you have lost your money. And then he asked me that, well, he said to me, I have a lot of friends who also had invested in this, not just friends in Sweden, friends on the European continent, in Asia, and the US. Could you help them as well? Is it possible for you to put together a kind of class action if we are going to do a legal action? And that's what I've been doing for, as I said, for the past 15 years. So I said, yes, okay, if you could come, you could get me in contact with other victims on the European continent and in Asia and in the US. I'm more than happy to look into the case. And that was in the end of July. And it's important to know that the shutdown of the investment platform was in the middle of July. So it was just a couple of weeks after UC Field has closed down the internet platform and the investors couldn't get access to the accounts. And it didn't take more than a couple of weeks. My inbox, my mailbox was filled with people from all over the world. So the first thing we do was to try to come in contact with as many victims as possible and to get a picture of how big is this, how many people are involved, how much money is it, how does the transaction looks like between the investors and UC Fields, what kind of bank connections have they used. So it was, first of all, it was to collect as much information as possible and to get in contact with as many people as possible, as many victims as possible. And that was during the August until mid-September something. And in the end of September, I said, I cannot accept more clients now because I need to go into legal action. And when I'm doing that, I need to tell how many people I represent.
Exactly. Yeah. So how many people are you representing right now?
Right now, I have about 800 people. And 800 people from 56 countries all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah. And coming from Sweden, I only have about 20 clients in Sweden and 35 altogether in the Scandinavian countries. So most of my clients are on the European continent. And there are many clients in Portugal, more than 50 clients in Portugal. I have more than 50 clients in Spain. I have more than 60 clients in Mexico, for instance. UC Field has done a lot of marketing in Mexico. So Portugal and Spain are actually two of the largest countries when it comes to the number of clients I have.
Oh, so what in terms of investigation, what did you find out until today about the scam?
Yeah, first of all, how they had done the marketing and sales activity using social media, and also have a strategy to recruit influencers, people with large networks on social media. That has been a strategy to find and recruit these people, educate them, support them with all kinds of marketing materials and education, and also giving them a commission agreement. So they received a commission for getting new investors. And so that's what we have been doing, to collect information and look into how the marketing and sales strategy has been doing. Who has been doing this? Who is the masterminds? Who has been the people who has fronting the company? And what kind of connections do they have to the banks? So far, I have identified more than 70 individuals who has, in one way or another, been involved in management of UC fields or facilitators for UC fields. More than 70 people has, in one way or another, been involved in building this, marketing and doing sales and management and taking care of support and also all the cash flow. And I have identified more than 40 companies who has facilitated, who has helped UC fields, allowing them to do the marketing, to expose UC fields. And among them are some of the large social media platforms, for instance, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and so on, and a number of news magazines who also have allowed UC fields to expose themselves and do marketing and sales activity in the news magazines or on the platforms. And then I have at last more than 60 banks who has allowed investors to make transactions from the investors to this single bank in Cyprus, where all the money went.
So, but these people, they also didn't know, they were not aware. Were they responsible to know more than they knew at the time?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, everybody has a personal responsibility. That is for sure. But I could say that anybody on this planet could be a victim of these kind of scams, because the scammers are so good, they are so sophisticated. This UC field scam is not the first scam the masterminds behind the UC field has done. This is they have done this a number of times before, and I have reliable sources and information saying that the masterminds behind UC fields, they have been working on different kinds of scams for more than 12 years. So UC fields is definitely not the first one. So they have had a lot of practice, they have a lot of knowledge, and they are very, very sophisticated about how to do these kind of scams, how to design them, and so on. And people are introduced to a kind of grooming process, because people doesn't go all in and invest all the money to start with. There is a grooming process, step by step, taking people from a small step, saying that only invest a couple of €100 and try out and see what's happening. And after 3 months, you could look at your account and these €200 are now €300. And then you could choose by withdrawal your €300, or you could reinvest the 300. By the way, when you're reinvesting your €300, why don't you take €1,000 and invest more, because it went very well for the first time. It's a kind of grooming process.
It's like when you go to a casino and you earn money and then you want to spend it again.
Absolutely. So we are all victims. We are all possible victims for these kind of for scams, because they are so good at it. They are so good at it. And I should also say, and this, I think this is important, that when they went to the banks, all these investors went to the banks and said that I want to transfer money to this bank account in Cyprus. The banks should have said that we want to investigate, because a bank in Cyprus, that is a suspicious activity. Investing in cannabis, that is something that is in a suspicious activity within the banking world. and having people behind UC Field who comes from Russia. That is also a suspicious items for the banks. And the bank that was involved, the bank in Cyprus, was also a bank where this bank was more or less blacklisted all over the world.
Oh.
So there are so many red flags saying that this shouldn't be a legit business. So the banks should have said to their customers, we are not allowing you to transfer money to Cyprus because we have checked the company, we have checked the bank, we have checked the business, and this is not something that we want to do. But they allowed the customers to do the transactions, and that is for the most of the investors. That is a kind of green light from the banks. So even if you were a little bit suspicious, could this really be really true? It's too good to be true. But the bank says, okay, yeah. And I have also clients who have told me, and I have evidence from that the banks in some cases have stopped the transfer and said to the clients, we want to check who is this UC Fields and what kind of company and so on. And then they came back to their customers and said that we have done a checking, we have done a due diligence of everything. Everything turned out okay, so we are now allowing the transaction from you to the bank in Cyprus. And that is a proof of concept for so no wonder why people, after all these steps, has said to themselves, yes, this is okay. Everyone has said it's okay. And they are marketing themselves on social media. They are in Forbes magazines. They are in CNN, and Forbes magazine and CNN says that this is a very nice, this is a very legit business. This is something new and interesting. Why should I have any doubts any longer?
Yeah. So, but all these red flags you talk about now, maybe they are obvious now, but they weren't so obvious before, because UC Fields had a really strong presence in events all over Europe and credible events. So, and at least in Portugal, they were connected with Sabores Púrpura, which is a company that is authorized by Infarmed to produce medicinal cannabis. So they were supplying them with plants. So how do you see all this situation also in Portugal? What did you find about Sabores Púrpura?
Exactly. Sabores is just one of the companies that UC Field has a connections to and an agreement, a cooperation. Because what UC Field did was to buy or sign agreements with legit companies. And that is to give a legit front for the business. Because what they said is that we have an agreement with a legit business. Sabores has a license. I think they were the first one in Portugal to actually to get a license for medical marijuana,
one of the first
productions and farming. And they have been using this strategy from day one to find companies that they bought part of or bought the whole company and building this legit front. But what is interesting is that neither Sabores or any of the other companies, there is one company in Denmark, there is another company in Bolivia, in Colombia. There are two companies in Colombia. They have signed agreement. There is another company in Switzerland. It's called LC Med, where they also have a share of an ownership of the company. all these companies has never supplied one single plant or never supplied anything to UC Fields.
Okay, how do you know that?
I know I see the accountings and the records. I have all the documents. So they have never, ever produced anything for UC Field or supplied anything. And that is important, Laura, because I have more than 20,000 documents. So when I've done now the legal actions and doing a lawsuit in Sweden, I have filed more than 20,000 documents. And I haven't seen one single document, and I haven't talked to one single company who has said, we deliver something, or one single company who has said, we have bought something from UC Fields.
So this means that the plants, they never existed.
No.
These plants didn't
Saboras has grown plants for UC Field, but very, very little, very few plants, and they haven't been sold or delivered to any kind of buyers. In Colombia, for instance, there hasn't been any kind of productions at all. There are two companies in Colombia. One is called Cannareporter, and the other one is called Terracan. And both of them, I have direct contact with both of them. I've been talking to them on a regular basis, and they haven't supplied one single thing to any buyers. And the Danish company, who also are under investigation, they haven't produced anything, and they haven't sold or delivered anything to any end buyer at all.
Okay. Here in Portugal, we made an investigation, and we found out that Miguel Silva, who is the CEO of Sabores Púrpura, he had created another 4 companies with Alan Glantz, the CEO of Juicy Fields.
Yeah, that's right.
We asked him questions. We sent him questions asking why did it have created these 4 companies with Alan Glantz, and he never replied to us. He actually said to the national TV here in Portugal that they only supplied, and that was their relationship, just supplying the plants for Juicy Fields. Do you know anything else about this involvement between Miguel Silva and Alan Glantz?
Yeah, Alan Glantz is just what is called a straw man. He is just a front. He is just what in my world is called a useful idiot. First of all, his name is not Alan Glantz. He is from Russia. He has a US passport, but he also has a Russian passport. His background is not within cannabis industry, has never done anything about cannabis industry. He doesn't know anything about cannabis industry. He owned a taxi company in outside Moscow. He had 5 taxis. That is his own. The whole business experience of Alan Glantz is that he has run a small taxi company outside Moscow. I have pictures from the taxis and I also have his Russian passport, and his name is not Alan Glantz to start with.
What is his real name?
I'm going to send you his real name, so you got it correct in your spelling. Yeah. And he has been paid just to have as a front man for UC Fields, and he has organized some of these events, some of these exhibitions and marketing activity, but he has never been involved in any kind of operation. And when Alan Glantz says that I know nothing about this, I'm completely innocent and so on, that is, sorry for my French, that is just bullshit. Because he knows exactly who the masterminds is. He and the masterminds behind this, the Russian gangsters, the Russian mobsters who behind this, has been cooperating for a number of years. So they know each other. since many years, not just with UC Field. And I could tell you that I have 2 whistleblowers from the inside of the UC Field organization, and they are now giving evidence, and they are now going to be witnesses in the trial I'm having in Sweden. So they have all the evidence. I have all the police evidence. I have all the police records about the passports and the fake IDs and the fake passports, Alan Glantz. So Alan Glantz is a career criminal, a small-time career criminal who has been paid for fronting this and taking And I know that he has now been he has joined and been in partnership with Saboras, and there is another gentleman who is also and Alan Glantz has a connections to Portugal because he has a family and relatives in Portugal. So that's the reason why he is in Portugal, and he is in Portugal right now.
Yes, I had a suspicion that he could be actually in Portugal, because when he does interviews, usually he's in his car, and in the background you can tell it's somewhere in Portugal. Lars, what is the...
And I could tell you, Laura, as well, there is one of the masterminds behind this also have a Portuguese connection. He has some relatives and he has some friends in Portugal. So Portugal has been a country where the criminals has done a lot of activities, and they have relations to Portugal.
Okay. So in terms of legal action now, we know that the first step was to sue Meta and Mark Zuckerberg for allowing the promotion of this scam. But what next steps will you take?
Just to explain why I'm going after Meta and Mark Zuckerberg is that my experience in all these kind of cases is that the scammers, the criminals, they have planned this for several years before the start operation. And they have done the exit strategy. They have planned how to exit and get away with the money. So according to my experience, and that is also all the police organizations all over the world, in all these international investments frauds, more or less never has anybody been convicted, because it's so difficult to do the investigations. The police authority says we cannot do anything. It's a nightmare when it comes to jurisdiction and these kind of cyber crimes. And the criminals, they are in Russia, and nobody is going to get anybody from Russia. So and the money is gone as well. So from day one, when they shut down the investment platform, the money is also gone. So it's from my perspective, helping the victims. It's no use to try to find the money and find that I know who the criminals are, but I cannot get them. So what I have said is that I'm going after what I'm calling the facilitators, those who has helped UC Field in one way or another, help them with allowing them to do sales and marketing. And that's why I'm saying I have identified 70 people, 40 plus companies, more than 60 banks. So what I'm doing now is to more or less one by one, picking them from my list. And that's why Meta Corporation and Mark Zuckerberg. And the reason why I'm filing what is called a private criminal prosecution. So it's not just claiming damages, it's also a prosecution, a criminal prosecution of Mark Zuckerberg. And the headlines, the motion is that he has been what is called aiding and abetting criminal or aggravated fraud. He has lost in responsibility to find out who is using my platforms. A very simple know your customer procedure should have been implemented. And he is the chief operating officer. He is in charge. He's not just a member of the board. He is in the daily operational charge of Meta. And that's why I'm going after him. And he is just one of, as I said, 40. So they are, unfortunately for me, I'm just one person. I have 12 assistants, but I don't have the time to go after all at the same time. So I'm just picking one by one, and Meta was the first one.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left. What would be your advice for all the victims of this scam of Juicy Fields? I know that many people lost even their houses because they thought that it worked, so they wanted to invest more and more, and they ended up like losing everything. What advice now you would give to these people?
Well, first of all, I would recommend them to follow this legal process, because it's going to be interesting to see how these scams are made. You could learn so much from the legal process, and now I'm telling the full story and how these scams are designed. So this could be something that you could learn for the future, not to be scammed. That is the first one. The second one is that if you want my help, I could bring you in as my clients in what I'm calling the second batch, because I ended the first batch in the end of September. But I'm now taking in more clients for my next action. So if there is somebody who is a victim for this Juicy Fields scam, they could go into internet and just Google me. They could see who I am and how to send an email to me, for instance. And then I could take them in and sign up them for as my clients and help them in the future. And I could tell you that I have never lost a case so far during these 15 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
So is this now your full-time job, the Juicy Fields case?
Absolutely. And it's not just a full-time job. This is free jobs, because I'm working 24/7 almost. So I've been working every day since the end of July, and it's taking so much time. Just the paperwork, collecting all the information and filing all the information. That is a massive work.
So congratulations for all your work, and thank you also for bringing some light to these people that are now in a difficult situation. And thank you for this interview and for clarifying some of the questions we had. Thank you, Lars.
And one of the things is not just to help victims, but also educate people so they don't fall into these kind of scams in the future.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars.
Bye-bye. Bye.